Hey friends, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. Today we are talking about the top 7 mistakes that I made in my 20s. So remember, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and that little notification bell right there so you get notified every single time that we upload. So let's get started. So the first mistake that I made in my 20s is that I did not have boundaries when it came to money. Oftentimes I would loan people money, not expecting them to give it back, and it was most likely money that I didn't have to loan them in the first place. And when people did say that they would pay me back, I never held them accountable for that. Even if I didn't have the money, if someone needed something, I was just kind of there to give it. Even though that wasn't helping me, it was making me feel really stressed out. It wasn't a good situation for our relationship. I did it anyway because I thought that was what I should be doing, when in reality, it was really hurting both myself and the other person by not establishing those boundaries when it came to money. Along with that, I committed to going on trips, going out to eat, going on vacations that I definitely didn't have the money for because I wanted to share that experience with people. I didn't want money getting in the way of me living my life, but then that just ended up biting me in the ass later on. So now in my budget, I set aside money for whatever I want to do with it, however I want to give money to people. That way I have a specific amount that I can use to give to people whenever I feel like it, to give back to my community, but it's not in a way where I am overspending and putting myself in a bad situation in order to do that. Number 2 is that I opened up a credit card without really understanding how it worked at all. The first time I ever opened up a credit card, I was 19, I was getting ready to study abroad, I was talking to my mom, and we thought that it would be a good idea for me to have a credit card because there were no international fees and it was a lot safer when it came to my money rather than just carrying around one debit card where if something happened to that or if something happened to the money in my bank account, I would be stuck abroad with no way to access any other funds. So it was a good idea for me to get a credit card, but the only bad thing about that was that I got a credit card, I had a pretty high initial limit, and I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know what my interest rate was. I didn't even understand how limits worked on credit cards. So for example, I think I had $1,000 on my limit at first, and I thought that once I spent $1,000 on that card, it was like done. I didn't fully conceptualize the idea that you pay it off and then you get more credit back, and that just ended up leading to me making some really bad financial decisions with credit cards later on. Luckily, somehow I managed to not overspend on that credit card the first couple of years that I got it, but then when things started getting hard, I came back to the States. I didn't have a lot of money, I didn't have a steady job, and I was suddenly finding myself paying for rent, paying for all these things that my school wasn't funding. That's when I found myself really overspending on that card because I didn't understand how it worked and I didn't really even think about it. Number 3 is not really understanding how student loans worked. There's a couple things that happened when I started taking out student loans and I didn't really understand everything that went into them. The first is that I would just take everything that they would offer me, I would take that refund and use that refund to subsidize my lifestyle that I was living. Honestly, I saw pretty much everyone else around me doing this, so I just thought it was like the normal thing to do. You just took whatever they were willing to give you, you used that money now, it was a low interest rate loan, so eventually future you will worry about it and figure out how to pay it back. And because of this, I did not keep track at all of how much debt I was going into when it came to student loans. It really didn't even cross my mind to keep track of that. I really thought that it was just something that I would deal with in the future, that whenever I graduated, I would make more money and it wouldn't be an issue and it would pay for itself. And while luckily after getting my master's degree I was able to significantly increase my income, I would definitely be in a much better financial situation if I had looked more closely at my student loans, understood what I was getting myself into, and then didn't take out the full amount and only took out what I needed at the time. Looking back on it, I also think that I would have made different decisions about what schools I chose to attend based on financial reasons. Number 4, I did not budget. Like at all. I had no concept of budgeting. I really viewed budgeting as just this restrictive thing that I did not want any part of. I didn't want money to have to stop me from living the life that I loved. But the reality is that really what I was doing was just subsidizing my lifestyle with credit cards, with my student loans, and that all ended up coming up later on in life. Really, this mistake is the foundation of pretty much all of my other mistakes because I had no real concept of what I was spending compared to what I was making. I didn't realize how fast I was going into the hole. Number 5, I impulse bought my car. Now, luckily, I was able to fund this car in full, so I don't have a car payment on it, but there were a lot of mistakes that came with my first time of buying a car that I wish I could do over again. First off, I absolutely hate my car. By the end of the day, the first day that we went car shopping, I realized that I absolutely hated it. I was done. I really hadn't done any research into cars, what I could afford with the price that I had, anything like that. So what ended up happening was that I just settled on the car that we found at the end of the day. We bought it in the rain at night, so I wasn't able to see like half of the damage that was done to this car. I had no idea what questions to ask. So for example, I just thought like cruise control was a given on a car. It was a 2012 car. I figured if my 2002 Ford Taurus that I had before that had cruise control, then why would this car not? But my car does not have cruise control. It has Bluetooth, but the Bluetooth is only for the phone. It doesn't play my music. So there were just a lot of things that had I known to ask them, I would have asked and I would have decided to not buy this car. I went into car buying thinking it was going to be a multi-day process, and by the end of day 1, I was just so sick of it that I just ended up impulse buying that car, and I really wish that I would have taken the time to go home, sleep on it, and research it, and decide what I wanted to do with the money that I had and what was important to me in a vehicle. Number 6 is not contributing to my retirement account. Time is really your biggest asset when it comes to investing. And luckily I did start investing at 24, but before that I had no idea what investing was about. Retirement wasn't even really on my radar. I didn't think about it. A 401k was just that thing that like my company said I could get, but that would have taken money out of my paycheck now, and I thought I really needed all of that money, so I didn't even look into that option. And looking back at it, I really wish that even if I had just set aside a little bit of money at a time, that I would have started from a younger age. That way I would have gotten in the routine of investing in my retirement, and that money could have grown exponentially by now. Number 7 was that I bought convenient and cheap items that didn't last and weren't of good quality. For most of my 20s and my late teens, I was moving around a lot. I moved away for college. From then I was bouncing around different apartments. I studied abroad there for a little while. So in my mind, it wasn't worth investing in things because I thought that I would just end up throwing them away, giving them away, they would become useless later on. So I never really thought about the idea of the cost per use of items. So instead, I would just buy cheaply made things that I would find at the dollar store, on Amazon, without ever really looking at the reviews and just looking at the price. And this caused me to rebuy a lot of things that I could have just purchased once that would have contributed to a lot less waste, and I would have wasted a lot less money. I really wish that I would have understood this idea of cost per use and taken advantage of that and seen that maybe an item is a little bit more expensive, but it's gonna last me so much longer, and therefore it is actually more affordable than that cheap, low quality product. Now, of course, this is a privilege to be able to invest in items, and I don't think that this needs to be something that you are thinking about all of the time. The reality is that sometimes we just need certain things and we have to be able to get the cheapest ones out there. But when it comes to if you have the money or if you can wait a little bit and save a little bit longer, I wish that I would have had that knowledge and I would have really thought through some of my purchases, saved up a little bit, and then bought quality items rather than just impulse buying a bunch of stuff that was cheap, low quality. Sometimes I didn't even use it, or it would become useless after a couple of times of using it. So that is it, guys. Those are my top 7 money mistakes that I made in my 20s. I hope that you learned something from this. I hope that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. And if you want to continue to learn more about money, investing, debt payoff, and how to finally feel confident with money, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and turn that bell notification on so you get notified every single time that we upload. And I will see you guys here next week. Bye.